Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another Live with Kevin, which will eventually, as you may or may not know, become an episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. I'm sorry, having a little technical challenge here. I'm going to try and take care of. Or I'll just say it is what it is. Thanks so much for being here, wherever you might be listening or watching. So glad that you're here. And if you're here now, either with us live or in sometime later, I'm glad you're here. Eventually, as I've said, this will be an episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. More about that in a second. But for those of you that are here live, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to think of this as if you were joining my guest and I around a table and we were having a real conversation, which means, number one, you'd let us know who you are. So say hello, tell us where you're located, because you aren't actually with us. Here's a hint. My guest and I aren't physically together either. But again, if we were all around an actual table, if you had questions or comments or ideas, you would offer them, ask them, and share them, right? So do that here. Just use the comment section of whatever social platform you're on to say hello, tell us where you're located, and throughout the conversation, if you have things to add to the conversation, please do that. They'll make for a better show, make for a better podcast eventually. And so since it will eventually be a podcast, I should introduce that as well. So we'll get ready to do the live read of the podcast, which will come out in this case, March right now. Marissa, this is for you in 3, 2, 1. The idea of employee experience isn't new, but designing for the employee experience intentionally is newer, and I would say far more important. If you care about getting great work done with and through others, you must consider the employee experience. And this conversation will help you do that. Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast, where we are helping leaders like you and organizations like yours grow to lead more effectively and make a bigger difference for the teams, your organization, and the world. If you are listening to this episode, you could join us in the future live on your favorite social media platform. You can get all of the future episodes live by knowing you have to know when they're happening, right? And the way to do that is to join our Facebook or LinkedIn groups, 2 of the platforms in which we live stream these episodes early. You can just go to remarkablepodcast.com/LinkedIn or remarkablepodcast.com/Facebook to join and get all the inside scoop, know when these are happening so you can get some of this information sooner if you'd like to do that. If you like what you're hearing today and want help in developing the leaders in your organization, let's talk. Reach out to info@kevinikenberry.com and we'll schedule time to learn about your needs and share how we might help. And having done all of our housekeeping, let's bring in our guest. Here he is. His name is Dean Carter. He's the newly named CEO at Instill.ai and the co-author, one of the 3 authors of Employee Experience Design, how to co-create work where people and organizations thrive. He has over 2 decades of experience as an executive officer for renowned and Fortune 50 companies such as Patagonia and Sears, as well as a board member for private and publicly held companies. His views on employee experience and the future of work are frequently featured on global publications, corporate events, main stages for keynotes, and podcasts like this one. Dean, welcome. Glad you're here.
Kevin, glad to join you today. Thank you so much.
So we're having this conversation 2 weeks before the book actually comes out. And if you're watching or listening to this on the podcast later, I don't know. We don't know when you're watching or listening. But when we're having this conversation, Dean's got the big smile on his face because we're still 2 weeks before having a book out in the world, and we're happy to help talk a little bit about it. So we should probably start, Dean. If we're going to talk about employee experience, I hinted in the opening that people have probably heard that phrase before. But if we're talking to one of the guys who wrote the book, we should probably get your sense of what's the actual definition. How would you define employee experience?
Yeah. Well, the employee experience is defined by the employee. That's the first thing to realize. It's not defined by me. It's not defined by the company. It's like, we're going to tell you what your experience is. It's defined by the employee.
Not defined by something we put on the wall.
No, it's not like, here's what your experience is going to be. And here, what it really is the interactions that an employee has with everything. That is the human interaction. It's interaction you have at the front desk. It's interaction you have with technology. It's the interaction you have with the food in the cafeteria and the front desk receptionist. It's every single moment that you're having that shapes your understanding of your experience. And each of those experiences enable or disable or get in the way of you doing and bringing your best self to work. And I think that most companies want to have atmospheres and environments and experiences where you're able to bring your best self to work. And that's fundamentally what it is. It's every single minute and moment, and they all have to be thought of meticulously. And I think sometimes you don't even think about something as simple as the front desk. Something as simple as the front desk. And that's the first place I go to in companies that have front desks, is I want to understand everything about the first impression. Everything. What's it like to answer the phone? When you walk up, do they smile? What's it smell like? What's it feel like? What's it look like? What's going on? Is it conversational? Like, everything about your culture, people are instantly making a judgment. Front desk matters.
So we all, everybody who's ever been employed has had an employee experience, and everyone who's working today is having one. But the point of this book isn't to say we need to think about that as much as we need to be intentional about that. So that's to me, that is the title of the book.
That is it.
Employee experience design. So the intentionality around that. So what do you mean by designing it intentionally? We'll get into some of the details about that, but talk about that, because that is a newer idea rather than just, well, there is one. How do we intentionally create one?
Yeah, whatever it is, the employees are having an experience. So it's either the experience you want them to have or don't, or whatever, they are having an experience and reflecting it and capturing it all the time. What we like to do is the concept of employee experience items first is talk to employees, like what is the experience they want to have and what's important to them. And I think that what we typically do is design experiences like this. So we ask 50 questions once a year. And out of those 50 questions once a year, we average to one really important question. We have a lot of focus groups, and maybe we get the results from the question, maybe, 60 days later. And then we report on it. And then we have big transformation changes around, I feel safe to take risk at work. I guarantee you, within the next 60 days, the world and the experience and everything changes. I call this way of designing experiences the same as if, let's say you're from Indianapolis and someone visits you in Indianapolis, and they visit you in August. Then they look around and they take a video and everything. They get lots of information about August to determine what they're going to wear in February. So
bad idea, everyone.
Yes. So that's what I compare the annual survey to. Is like taking a photo of a moment in time and designing an entire year after it. By the way, the world changes, things change. And so first of all, you need to be meticulous on how you design, and what is the process you go with it and engage employees in it. And the other part is it has to be, you have to continually, part of the design process is to continue understanding what the employee experience is, so you can shift and move and design the experiences for people in the moment. For example, even external influences can have an influence, not just what's going on in the company. When I was with Guild, we were in Denver, and not too far from the corporate office, there were 6 people killed in a nightclub. No one was from the company, but there were friends of people who were there. Okay. No one was able to bring their best self to work to that time. And if I had ignored that then they would have been like, you don't care about us. We brought in therapists and people to help and people to navigate what's going on. We talked a little bit about it. We brought people together to talk about it. So that's my example of, like, even the experiences that you're having within work, you do have to understand what's going on outside of work to be able to shape a little assistance when people can't bring their best self to work because if things even happen outside the office.
So, if people are thinking about this idea of employee experience, how would you? Is it the same or different? And if different, how is it different from culture? Because obviously, there's lots of discussion about organizational culture.
Yeah.
How are they the same or different, Dean?
I study this a lot. And because of the book, we wanted to really understand and break down kind of experience. The other thing is culture. And the company I work with actually is working for the first time to actually quantify and capture culture. Difference between, like, say, employee experience. Employee experience is my experience. Today I experienced this. This is my interaction. This is what I did. My intro to the front desk or whatever. And I give you my reflection. Today I feel safe to take risk at work. Today I feel like I belong. So this culture is the interaction between two human beings. How I treat you, how you treat me, the language, the respect, how often I get to speak, how often you get to speak. Am I respected when my conversation? Culture is about how human beings interact. Experience is my personal experience that I'm having. So you need to knowing the difference between those two things. That's why culture is so difficult to measure. I can ask you what your opinion is about your experience. You can do that in pulses and surveys. Understanding how the third eye in the room, how two people connect and have a conversation. And culture is things like trust, psychological safety. All those things are cultural items that are super important, and they're built by how we interact and communicate visually, vocally, verbally every single day. That's culture. Again, probably something you don't want to do by accident. It's interesting, like the concept of employee experiences, you can shape and change. There's a lot of things you can do, a lot of control on this. And we can shape and measure those. Culture is very, very difficult to get your hand around because you're not in the room when people are interacting.
So if all of us are having our own experience, how do we get that feels pretty complex, right? Like, even if you've only got 20 people, right? You've only got 5 people. But if you've got thousands of people or large numbers of people, how do we design around this if everyone is having their own experience?
So give you an example. A lot of people like to talk about Patagonia, which was glorious. This is easy when you hire a bunch of people who love to surf and you let them surf. That's a great experience. And highly productive during the day because you want to be able to surf when the surf is up. So you make sure you get all your work done. So when the surf is up, you go. That's just one kind of experience.
A little different than Sears, I'm guessing.
I'm going to talk about Sears. So Sears, this is not just Sears, it's Sears and Kmart, by the way. These two companies came together to create one giant Titanic that was sinking. So at the time I joined, the iceberg had hit. It was taking on water, and you could feel the groan of the ship, just like just you could feel it. In the movie, you can feel it, just the ship going down. And I thought, what do I do with this? So first, we needed to understand, because we didn't have that many resources. We were challenged financially, so we had to be really, really tight. But we need to understand what's going on with the employees and their experiences. So the best thing we can think of, because we had 270,000 employees. They're all in warehouses and stores all over the United States. So we hacked into the time clock. And at the time, this thing had come out called the mood ring. I don't know if you remember that. And you could check your mood on your finger, and it changed colors.
I never owned one, but I do. I'm of an age to remember it.
Mood lamps, mood rings, a lot of mood things going on at that time. So mood ring. So we called it mood ring, and then we evolved it to this thing that had like a smiley face to a frowny face. We call them emojis today. We didn't have such a thing as emojis. So he said, tell us at the end of your shift, just before you check out, how was your day? Are you exhausted or energized? And we had 5 different choices. So we didn't know what was going to happen. We had a hypothesis. We turned that machine on, 70,000 pieces of data a day. people having energizing experiences, people being exhausted. And what we discovered is we would go find out, I could allocate very scarce resources straight into a store that was having everyone's having a exhausting experience. And I'd go in there, it wasn't one answer ever. Sometimes I'd go in and the store had mold in it and we hadn't repaired it, and they felt like they weren't safe because the store, no one had been focused and I had no idea. How can I know a store has mold or not? Like, the repair organization in real estate is in charge of that, and they were slow to fix it. So we went in, got all the mold out, made sure they felt like they were safe to come to work. Another one, we had a really horrible manager in the store who was really toxic. We did focus groups and interviews. My point is, sometimes you don't know what the issue is with employees, but getting to understand even just something as simple with thousands of employees, I'm exhausted or I'm energized by work, going through and asking the question, tell me about your experience. What's going on? One, it showed I care. I showed up, I heard you. I took action, and then they really appreciated it. Just because I listened, heard them, took action. And if I just done that survey and they were saying every single day, I'm exhausted, I have a terrible experience, and I did nothing, then the experience gets worse because then I break trust.
Right.
So don't ask these questions you're not ready to do something about. But that's my main, and I could give examples of that at Guild and Patagonia, where we measured pulses every day, and here's a great example because there may be some people from HR listening. At Guild, we asked the question, and the number one group that was having a terrible experience were the recruiting coordinators on my team. I was like, whoa. So like, my team is having the worst experience in the company, like very exhausted. So I went and asked them one by one, what's up? What's going on? Thank you. Like, something's up. They said, well, the HR business partners always give us incomplete information, so we can't fill out the recs. And then the hiring managers call us and scream at us because we haven't opened the position yet. But I don't want to throw the HR business partner under the bus and say, I don't have the documentation correct, so I can't post a position. So I just take it. So I get beat up by hiring managers all day long. And then I work really hard to schedule the manager with the candidate. And then the manager cancels, either doesn't show up or cancels at the last minute for the interview. Then I have to call the candidate, and then I got a manager, and I got to reschedule and apologize. And it's just, all I want to do is create amazing experiences for candidates and fill the positions quickly. And every day I feel like I'm failing. Every day I feel like I'm failing. It's like, okay, let's talk to the HR business partners. Let's reinvent the form. It's a bad form, whatever. Let's all align and then agree to do it. And if you don't get the form, the HR business partner lets the hiring manager know they're responsible for it. Second thing, if they cancel, the hiring manager now calls the candidate and apologizes personally and then schedules it. They became the most energized group in the group, and I changed their title to candidate experience specialists instead of recruiting coordinators. So they became the number one most engaged, most enthused group, because then they got rewarded every day by the candidate. The hiring manager said thank you. The HR business partner said thank you. Anyhow, it's not one thing. It's so personal.
Right. So if I were to say, having read the book or the lion's share of it, if I were to say what I think the big idea of the book is, or the big takeaway from the book, it's in the subtitle. It's the word co-create. So that this isn't something we're doing to employees, it's something we're doing with employees. Your examples have just been showing that. So let me just say, as a reader, that's my take on the big idea. Agree or disagree? And what would you say about the idea of co-create?
I think a lot of times either boards or senior teams default to, what's the best practice? So let's find what everyone else is doing, and we just do best practice. And I feel like best practice is actually worst practice or last practice. My view is whatever's going on in the world, that has been averaged for you to like do is probably you're managing to average, not managing to what's right for your team.
And you're also managing. I have a strong opinion about this as well, and I remember reading this in the book. You're also managing based on someone else's context.
A year ago,
You and I were talking about mood rings. Let me just say, like 30 years ago, best practices made a lot more sense because everyone's situation was much more the same.
right?
Way less the same. Way less. Yeah, all
Unique
sorts of reasons best practice is a bad plan.
So people love to build things, and they love the things that they build. So when you engage them in the process, wow, this is not my experience. This is your experience. What do you want to be like? And by the way, I didn't say they create, co-create. I'm a part of it. Business is a part of it because we still have to run a good business. So you can't just like, hey, we want water slides throughout the building. That'd be great.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's not it. And most of the time they don't want water slides. They actually want really good things, and they're much smarter about it than we are. Things that we would never have thought of. Here's a great experience that an employee.
Before you go to that story, can I
Yeah.
raise a question that came in because I
Yeah.
don't want to lose, and now's the time to ask that question. Florence asked this question: How do you tackle consistent feedback that you can't take action on? How do you prevent losing trust? It's not exactly where you're at, but it's connected. So, you have thoughts on that?
You do, Florence. That's a really, really great question. Here's how I take action on it. I don't take action on it. So when I started implementing this and we got consistent feedback, the managers came back to me and said, my team is really having a terrible experience. What are you going to do about it? And I was like, nothing, or I can. What are you going to do about it? As I can give you some ideas on what to do about it. So here's the thing. If I take on the entire responsibility of employee, I'll never get to these. So what I did was I need information. So I stack rank people in terms of just participation and energy. But once I get the lowest energy, I rank them by senior leader and leader and manager. Highest energized, lowest energized. Just gave it to them. They're like, my team is high. I'm on the bottom of the list. How do I get to the top? I'm like, well, here, go and listen one by one, hear what they have to say, then take action and do it. Then come back to me if you need some assistance on how to make this happen, how to communicate. So you can multiply yourself so many times. Most managers come to work and go, I really want to drive a good experience for my employees. I don't know very many managers who eat breakfast and go, how can I really create the most worst experience today for my employees? Like, how can I be just an evil monster? I don't think people think that. But what they don't have is data and information to help them focus and do this. So I believe once you create the systems and processes, and this book isn't just for heads of HR, this is for daily managers. Design the experiences with your teams. So one single manager could use this book and design an amazing experience for their team. Again, at Sears, we had the worst CEO voted by Time Magazine on the planet. Worst. And so I was like, what do I do with this? We're on the Titanic and the worst CEO on the planet. So I pulled my team together and I said, okay, knowing kind of what they wanted, I said, we're on a big town hall, 6,000 people. We're on the Titanic. This ship is going down. And the iceberg hit it and I can't do a darn thing. But there are a lot of people that you came here to help and support. That's why you're in HR. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to be the band. We're going to play amazing music and help all these people, at least in the challenging moment, just feel good and feel beautiful music. We're going to do amazing HR. And you are going to be the best trombone player and the best tuba player and the best flute player and the best triangle player and cymbal crasher. And when this ship goes down, I promise every single one of you that you'll be on a better boat than the one you got in on, because you're going to learn and you're going to grow and we're going to do amazing HR. Not one. Our turnover went to almost zero on that HR team. And now, 10 years later, they say that was one of the best experiences of their lives. On the Titanic, worst CEO on the planet, 6,000 people. And we drove amazing experiences because they were able to learn and grow. And of those people who were new in career, 27 are now heads of HR.
That's awesome. So there's lots of stuff in the book.
It's a good question. Sorry, Florence, for the long answer, but it's a really good question. Yeah.
So there's lots of stuff in the book we don't have time to get to. And we are talking with Dean Carter, the co-author of Employee Experience Design, How to Co-Create Work Where People and Organizations Thrive. And we just talked about an example where maybe the organization wasn't going to thrive, but the people still could. So, but there are plenty of things we could talk about, but I want to just get at one of the frameworks that you talk about in the book, and maybe the core one in terms of if I want to start to have real conversations with my employees about designing an employee experience. You talk about the PrEP framework.
Yeah.
And we've just got a couple of minutes, but how would you give us an insight to that? Enough of an insight that people know something, but also that they're going to want to get a copy of the book to learn more.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, how do I do this? And so what we didn't want this to do is be like, this is the only way to do this. So there are 3 frameworks you can choose from. There are 7 mindsets you can work from. There are different blueprints you can work from. And then we have 5 other leaders that we got their story. You read Greg Pryor's approach to this, or Beth Grouse, or Christy Lloyd. So the one I'm going to talk about is the PrEP framework, which I'm glad you picked it because it's one of my favorites. Starts with one is like, why are you doing this? What is the purpose that you're trying to create, and align everyone around like, what are we trying to accomplish? The second thing is you need to build trust. So even if this, like, I'm in this to help you, I'm going to be clear. I'm going to have a business mindset because we need to drive business through this. We're going to co-create this together, build trust and relationships. So that's the first thing, purpose, build relationship. The next thing is, how do I give you agency to make change? Maybe you bring the employees together and they start shaping the experience. Here's what we want. And sometimes the experience is how they treat each other. For example, in hospitals, I did a lot of work with hospitals and culture change. The worst experience is nurses treating each other terrible. It's not the patient relationship. It's not about the other teams. It's like agency to help each other treat each other better. And the last one is really, at the end of the day, this does have to tie to an outcome, a specific outcome. We're doing this, of course, so people can be more sustainable in work and they come to work and bring their best selves. But at the end of the day, how does this tie to, and can you pull the thread all the way from purpose to relationships to they own it to actually how's its impact on the company? This is kind of the ultimate co-create situation where you bring them in, you enable them, give them agency, and then you connect it to an employee, company impact. And I find that I don't do anything unless I tie it to an outcome. Like, why are we doing this? I use the scientific method. I always do before and after testing. Everything we do, treat everything like a product. Here's where we are now. Here's what the data says. I launched, I did the program, I measured again after it. I can tell what I either got the result or didn't get the result. So then the CFO asked me, should we do this again? I have data and information to say, nope, kill it. Or yes, I'm in, and here's why. Here's 6 database reasons why.
So the employee experience for many people today is different than it was pre-COVID, right? In that many people are now working in some sort of hybrid setting. They're either fully remote, they're not in the office with each other every day, only some of the days, et cetera. So, and I realize this could be a whole episode, but in short, what would you say to organizations that are thinking about a hybrid workplace, and what are the implications for employee experience there?
There's a very different experience by working in an office, and a very different experience at working at home. And what I think we did, we came back and we tried to design work exactly like it was the way it was before COVID. So we didn't think differently. We weren't creative. We weren't thoughtful. We just said, okay, everyone come back to work. We're going to design work the same exact way we did it before. And you've got all these people working from home, And it's not the same. Nothing is the same. By the way, 3 years later, none of us were the same as human beings. Like, life changed. We had kids. We had people die. There were things happen personally. But my point is, like, we didn't think differently about work. And we have to think. Here's a great example. There was a deaf employee who worked with Patagonia before, who had a really very difficult time hearing. When we came back from COVID, we kind of went back to meetings, and he came in and he said, the best thing that ever happened to me was COVID. Everyone's screens were up. I could read their mouths. I did my best work ever. He said, could you please have everyone have screens up? So when I'm in the room, I can see their faces and I can read their lips and I know who's speaking. It helps me. If I'd have just forced everyone to go back to work the way he did it before, he would never be able to perform. He became one of the greatest designers in the company and sold amazing clothes because his experience we learned from COVID is one of the things that we learned is like screens up helped him. We have to think differently. I don't think that lack of belonging, lack of community, and depression need to happen by working from home at all. I don't think that it can happen because we're still working under the same structures and systems.
It will happen. I think a big idea of the book is it will happen if we're not intentional about trying to figure out what really is happening and how we can adjust and design for it. So before we finish, Dean, I've got a couple of questions I like to ask. One of them is, I'm curious. We heard the dog, so that might give me part of an answer to this question. But what do you do for fun?
Well, I love to go to the beach, and I've got 2 dogs, a golden retriever and a black lab. And my ideal day is to go to the beach, throw the ball, hang out in the sun, and get a little sand, jump in the water. And if I did that all day long for the rest of my life, just like that'd be my perfect day with my husband, Mark, my 2 dogs, our daughter, Grace, and just throwing a ball over and over into the ocean. All right. That's my great day.
The one thing you knew I would ask is this, and I know you're prepared for it. What are you reading these days?
I am reading Primal Intelligence.
And I have it too.
I know. It was, I never buy books in the airport, ever. And so I was in
It was a long time, Dean.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna get a book. And this one I saw at the airport. I'm like, okay, this is not like a romance novel. And so it's like the one that wasn't. And I've been reading it. It is remarkable. It is a different way of thinking, a different way of solving problems, a different way of dealing crisis that leverages both process and intuition. It's really brilliant. I can't stop reading it. It's really changed my mindset. There are a lot of books that changed my mind. This is one of those.
Primal Intelligence. We will have that in the show notes. We'll also obviously have the link to employee experience design in the show notes. Where do you want to point people, Dean, or where do you want to let people know where they can learn more from all of you and Samantha and Mark?
Well, if you go to the Amazon #1 best new releases, we're going to find us right at the top of the list of the #1 new release in HR. You can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, often your local bookstore, but all the major publications have it. Amazon is pushing it pretty hard now because it did pretty well. And so you can go find that anywhere, and you can follow me on LinkedIn. I talk a lot about the book. You're going to find a link on there to get the book. January 27th, hard copy comes out. And I hope that it's not a book like a something you put on the shelf and you never pick up again. I hope you read it. I hope you like it's got show me yours. That's what I hope it looks like. It's tagged and it's messed up and it's got coffee spilled on it, and I hope it isn't just another little table decoration. I hope you use it every day.
Dean, thank you for being here. I've got a question before we say goodbye. I've got a question for everyone else who is here. It's the question I ask you every episode. The question is, now what? What are you going to do? Like, it's one thing to hear all this and say, yeah, that's a good idea. But a good idea that we don't act on changes nothing. So what was it that you take from this for yourself, for your team, that you will go act on? A question you can ask, a process you can begin to change. What might that be? How can you start to co-create and redesign the employee experience with your team? I hope that you'll think about doing that. Dean, thanks again so much for being here. It was a pleasure to have you.
Kevin, it's a delight. Thank you so much.
And so if you enjoyed this, everybody, if you enjoyed your podcast experience, make sure you're subscribed so you come back next week for another episode. We'll be back. So I hope you'll be back. And if you enjoyed this, especially in episodes like this, where we're really talking about things that have broad implication across your organization, I hope that you share this with others. And so you can have a more fruitful conversation and implementation in your organization because you're not doing it alone. Invite others to join you, to listen, to watch, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. We'll see you then, everybody.